The European Union permits 28 sunscreen filters for babies. The United States permits 16. They share only 8 in common. That gap is not a coincidence. It is the result of two completely different regulatory philosophies. And the ingredients sitting in that gap are the ones being applied to your baby's skin every day this summer. Number 7. Banana Boat Ultra Sport Sunscreen, SPF 100. Banana Boat is one of the most recognized sunscreen brands in America. Their Ultra Sport line is marketed for active outdoor use, for athletes, for families at the beach, anyone who needs serious sun protection. The SPF 100 positioning signals maximum protection. The reality of what is delivering that protection is a different conversation. The formula contains oxybenzone at concentrations that exceed European limits, and homosalate well above the EU 0.5% restriction. Both ingredients are in the same bottle, applied liberally and reapplied every 2 hours as directed over a full day outdoors. This results in repeated high-dose exposure to 2 ingredients. The EU Scientific Committee has specifically flagged those ingredients for endocrine disruption concerns at typical use levels. And Banana Boat is not alone. The next brand is one of the best-selling sunscreens in the country. Number 6. Neutrogena Ultra Sheer Dry Touch Sunscreen, SPF 100. Neutrogena Ultra Sheer is the sunscreen dermatologists recommend most. It sits in every pharmacy, every grocery store, every hotel gift shop. It is lightweight, non-greasy, and the dry touch formula made it the gold standard of everyday facial sunscreen for a generation of American consumers. It contains oxybenzone at concentrations above EU limits and homosalate significantly above the EU threshold. Neutrogena also sells different formulas in European markets that use EU-approved filters to comply with local regulations. The same brand, the same company, the same labs, making a cleaner formula for Europe and selling the higher concentration chemical version in America. That is not a coincidence of regulation. That is a deliberate formulation choice. The capability to make a formula that meets stricter international standards exists. Neutrogena has already done it. They choose not to sell it here. The next brand is marketed specifically at children. That distinction matters. Number 5. Coppertone Sport Sunscreen, SPF 50. Coppertone is the sunscreen brand most associated with American childhood. The peeling swimsuit logo, the smell of summer. Coppertone Sport is their active line, but Coppertone also produces widely used children's and baby sunscreen lines under the same brand umbrella with similar formulation approaches. Coppertone Sport contains oxybenzone and octinoxate, both restricted in the EU and both used here at concentrations above European limits. For an adult using this occasionally, the exposure picture is one thing. For a child reapplying sunscreen multiple times a day, across an entire summer season, year after year, the cumulative absorption question is more significant. Children's skin absorbs at higher rates than adult skin. The EU applies the precautionary principle specifically because of that difference. The FDA has not. Now the regulatory picture gets more specific. The next products contain ingredients where the EU has not just restricted them, but has taken active steps toward removal. Number 4. Hawaiian Tropic Silk Hydration Sunscreen, SPF 30. Hawaiian Tropic Silk Hydration line markets itself on skin feel, the lightweight, moisturizing texture that makes daily sunscreen application more comfortable. The SPF 30 positioning puts it squarely in the everyday face and body use category, meaning this is a product people apply 365 days a year, not just at the beach. The formula contains homosalate and octocrylene. Homosalate is currently under active review in the EU, with discussions around phasing it out entirely due to accumulating evidence of endocrine disruption. Octocrylene has raised additional environmental concerns and is restricted more heavily in European formulations. Both ingredients are in a product designed for everyday, year-round use. Daily application of 2 ingredients that one major regulatory body is actively reconsidering is a meaningful data point for a product you use every morning. The next brand will surprise parents, specifically because it sits in the baby aisle. Number 3. Coppertone Water Babies Sunscreen, SPF 50. A separate entry from Coppertone Sport, because this product deserves specific attention. Water Babies is marketed explicitly for infants and young children. The name, the packaging, the positioning, all of it signals that this is the safe, gentle, baby-appropriate option. Parents reaching for the sunscreen most clearly labeled for babies, are reaching for this one. Water Babies contains oxybenzone. EU restricts oxybenzone in adult sunscreens due to endocrine disruption and systemic absorption concerns. It is applied here to children, the population with higher absorption rates, developing hormonal systems, and the longest lifetime exposure ahead of them. The American Academy of Pediatrics has recommended that parents avoid oxybenzone containing sunscreens on children under the age of 6 months, and has suggested caution for older children as well. A product named Water Babies, marketed for the youngest and most vulnerable users, contains an ingredient that the EU restricts in adult sunscreens, and that the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends avoiding in young children. That gap between the packaging promise and the ingredient reality is why this is number 3. 2 more. These are not just formulation concerns. These involve environmental bans and documented marine ecosystem damage on top of the human health questions. Number 2. Sunbum Original SPF 50 Sunscreen. Sunbum has a cult following. The banana mascot, the beach brand aesthetic, the somewhat clean positioning that sits between hardcore chemical sunscreens and full mineral alternatives. Sunbum markets itself to a health-conscious, environmentally aware demographic, the exact consumer who is most likely to assume they have already made the better choice by choosing Sunbum over a pharmacy generic. Sunbum Original contains oxybenzone and octinoxate. Both are banned in Hawaii because of coral reef destruction. Both are restricted in the European Union. Both are in a product whose brand identity is built on beach culture and environmental affinity. The brand that positions itself as the conscious sunscreen choice still uses the 2 ingredients most associated with ocean ecosystem damage. Sunbum does offer mineral options that avoid these filters entirely. The original formula, the one most people buy, is not one of them. If Sunbum is your brand, the mineral version is the product that matches what the brand aesthetic implies. Number 1 is the product that most directly illustrates the regulatory gap this video is about. It was specifically tested, specifically flagged, and specifically compared between its US and EU formulations. Number 1, Neutrogena Beach Defense Sunscreen SPF 70. Neutrogena Beach Defense is a high SPF broad-spectrum sunscreen and designed for extended outdoor exposure. High means more UV filter volume in the formula, which means higher concentrations of chemical filters per application. Beach Defense contains oxybenzone at concentrations that, in a 2020 JAMA study, produced blood concentrations exceeding the FDA's own proposed safety threshold after a single application, not after a season of use, after 1 application. It also contains homosalate significantly above European limits and additional chemical filters that compound the systemic absorption picture. Neutrogena, as noted in the Ultra Sheer entry, already formulates EU-compliant versions of their products for European markets using different filter combinations that meet stricter standards. Beach Defense, as sold in the US, uses concentrations and ingredients specifically excluded from their European formulations. The same brand, a higher exposure product for the American market, a cleaner formula for Europe. That deliberate bifurcation and the fact that American consumers are not told it exists is exactly why this is number 1. Turn over your sunscreen. Look for oxybenzone, homosalate, octinoxate, octocrylene, and 4-methylbenzylidene camphor. If any of those appear, the mineral alternatives protect just as effectively without the regulatory controversy. Here's where to start. 3 sunscreens that meet international safety standards. These mineral alternatives protect just as effectively, and the filters in these 3 have cleared the safety bar in every major regulatory system on Earth, not just the American one. Number 3, Blue Lizard Mineral Sunscreen SPF 30+. Blue Lizard uses only zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, the 2 UV filters that have comprehensive safety data accepted by both the FDA and international regulatory bodies, including the EU. No oxybenzone, no homosalate, no chemical filters with endocrine disruption flags. The filters sit on the surface of the skin and physically reflect UV rays rather than absorbing into the bloodstream. It has Australian heritage and is formulated to meet strict international standards. The bottle changes color in UV light, a genuinely useful function that tells you when you need to reapply. Available at most drugstores for $15 to $18. Blue Lizard proves mineral sunscreen can be accessible. The next one proves it can perform at a premium level. Number 2, Elta MD UV Clear SPF 46. Elta MD is the sunscreen most frequently recommended by dermatologists for daily facial use. It uses zinc oxide as its sole active UV filter, no chemical filters, no oxybenzone, no homosalate. The formula is designed specifically for sensitive, acne-prone, and post-procedure skin, which means it has been formulated to avoid the ingredients most likely to cause irritation or adverse reactions. EltMD is widely available at dermatology offices, medical spas, and online. It is more expensive than drugstore options, typically $30 to $40, but it is consistently rated as one of the best performing mineral sunscreens for daily facial use in terms of texture, finish, and wearability. There are no active recalls, no regulatory flags, and no gap between European and American formulations. For consumers who have been told by a dermatologist to wear sunscreen daily and want a formula that meets the strictest international filter standards, EltMD is the closest thing to a clinical recommendation in the mineral category. EltMD sets the bar for daily facial use. Number 1 sets the bar for everything else. Number 1. Badger Active Mineral Sunscreen, SPF 30. Badger has been making mineral sunscreen since before the clean beauty category existed as a marketing term. Their active formula uses non-nano zinc oxide, a particle size specifically chosen to sit on the skin surface rather than penetrating deeper, as the sole active ingredient. No titanium dioxide, no chemical filters. One active ingredient with a safety profile accepted by every major regulatory body on Earth. Badger is certified organic, NSFA NSI 305 certified, cruelty-free, and reef-safe. Their full ingredient list is short, published, and verifiable. No recalls, no regulatory actions, no gap between what the packaging promises and what the formula contains. The texture is thicker than chemical sunscreens, and this is the honest trade-off of mineral formulation. Badger's tinted version largely addresses the white cast concern and is one of the most widely recommended tinted mineral options available. Available at Whole Foods, REI, Target, and online at a price comparable to mid-range chemical sunscreens.